It is a great day to be alive, and I am so thankful for God, Jesus Christ, who lives in us. Today's video is titled, Tether Collapse and XRP Timeline Connection. How are these two coins connected? In addition to that, I'm going to be talking about Bonk and Total Capital, as well as Diddy, his connection to XRP. Yes, it may seem random to talk about Tether, XRP, and Bonk in the same video, but they all fall on the same timeline. Before we get started, I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing that I'm sharing is financial advice. I'm simply sharing dreams, visions, and interpretations that I feel God has given me as it relates to crypto. Now, let's get into the video. So, for those of you who have not heard about my Tether dream, I had this dream on April the 10th of last year. And in this dream, my brother-in-law, Patrick, was looking for his Tether swing. I can't find it. It was just here. I just had it. It was here and now it's gone. I can't find my Tether swing. And so I decided to help him. I'm looking around, nothing but grass. I don't see no swing anywhere. And so my dad, he was also in the dream. My dad was looking for this swing. The dream changed, and now I see my dad pulling up something out of the ground. He was pulling, tugging with all of his might, pulling, and sure enough, he pulled up a swing out of the ground. This swing was mangled. The legs were bent. There were roots and vines and dead leaves. This swing wasn't just here and now it's gone. This thing looked like it had been buried for years. So this is what we've been looking for. This is the Tether swing that we've been looking for. And so I'm looking at it, and my dad has his hand on it, and my eyes zoomed in on the portion of the swing where my dad's hands were. And when his hand released the swing, it began to fall. And I knew at that point that this swing was unstable. And that was the end of the dream. Right away, I knew this dream was about Tether. I knew I had heard of this coin before, but as far as following it in the news, all I knew was there was a stable coin. And from that, waking up from the dream, writing everything down, I knew that God was telling me that this Tether coin would become unstable. It will be here 1 minute and gone the next. However, when it's uncovered or when it comes back, it will be unstable. And this reminded me of Terra Luna and what happened to UST when it became unstable. It lost its peg. And this is what I had in mind during that time with Tether. Well, shortly after having this dream, I began to hear news about Tether. I don't know if it's because of the dream that my ears were perked up to hearing it whenever I heard the word Tether. But a lot of news was coming out. News about stable coins, news about the U.S. and regulations, news about MiCA and EU, and specific deadlines. And Tether was the outcast. Well, during this time, God was also showing me a lot of things with XRP. I would hear bad news about Tether, and within a day or the same day, good news about XRP. Tether is a stable coin that does not have the correct regulations. And then here come XRP with their RLUSD. And so God was just showing me this comparison between these two coins. So my trail went cold with Tether for a while. However, my conviction is still in the fact that God has shown me that this coin will be here one day and gone the next. And when it returns, it is going to be unstable. Now, something to keep in mind about this Tether dream. Before I had this dream, I was talking to God about what he had just recently revealed to me. And during this time, it was the market crash timeline. And I came to God and I said, God, so much is coming together. This looks like a timeline. If this is a timeline, if you're showing me a market crash timeline based on my dreams from 2023, the ones that I had and I couldn't figure out and I put them down and now I picked them back up and you're putting these things together for me, numbers, colors, all this stuff. If this is a timeline, based on what I've counted, on April the 11th, I should have a dream. So on April 10th, as I'm getting into bed, I'm reminding God, okay, God, I'm going to sleep now. I'm closing my eyes. And so I should have a dream on tonight. And so on April 11th, when I wake up from this dream, that is going to be confirmation that this is a market crash timeline. Not only had I noticed that this was a market crash timeline, but also it has something to do with the Israel war. So here I am going to sleep and I have this Tether dream and I wake up and it's April the 10th. And I'm like, wait a minute, why is it not the 11th? I've had this dream on the 10th. And so I wrote the dream down, and what happened after that, I went back to sleep and I had a dream about a yellow and red key. And then I had another dream about the tether swing dream. Basically, I had a dream about a dream, and I was telling someone in that dream about Patrick, about him looking for his tether swing. And when I woke up from these two dreams, it was April the 11th. So God not only had given me a dream on April the 11th, but he had given me two dreams. One confirming the fact that what I showed you on April the 10th, a few minutes before you had this yellow and red key dream, a few hours before you had this dream about a dream, I've given you all these things as confirmation to the fact that Tether coin will become unstable. So now that I have the confirmation, now that I have all the dreams and the details, I'm now looking at my brother-in-law. Why was he in my dream? Patrick. This was the first instance to where God had led me to look up a person's birthday and to use that as a date. His birthday is April the 18th. It's now April the 11th. I have to wait till April the 18th to see what transpires. Well, on April the 18th, something happened with the Israel war, which fell in line with the pattern of what he had already previously shown me before I had the Tether swing dream. This timeline is about war. Now it's about crypto and also a market crash. At this time, I thought Tether would be the reason for the market crash. And again, all the while, each time I heard bad news about Tether, I heard good news about XRP. And from that, I began to see God showing me a comparison and a connection between XRP and Tether. What I do now is go through this short timeline and in the end give a date. Again, looking at Tether versus XRP. Looking at the timeline and making a connection. I wanted to see for sure, God, are you showing me a connection between Tether and XRP? And based on what I've recently found, I still feel as though God was indeed putting the two together for a reason. So here is the table where I put all three dreams together. The Tether swing dream that I had on April the 10th, and then the other two dreams that I had on April the 11th. Another thing that I want to mention about my brother-in-law, Patrick, again, his birthday was April the 18th. Before April 18th rolled around, specifically April the 17th, Patrick McHenry presented a stablecoin bill April the 17th, 2024, one day before my brother-in-law's birthday. I don't think it's a coincidence that his name is also Patrick. So when I was reading about this stablecoin bill being put out, only a few days after I had my Tether swing dream with my brother-in-law Patrick in it, to me, that was confirmation. Getting to the yellow and red key dream, because of my dreams in the past with the colors and numbers, I automatically knew that this dream was representing 100 days, something to do with 100 days because of the color yellow and red. And then on April the 11th, once again, the retelling of the Tether swing dream. I had a dream about me telling someone about the Tether swing dream. And after all of this time, something that I never considered as far as this Tether swing dream was my dad's birthday. His birthday is January the 9th. And this is where I began this Tether timeline. Again, this is new. So January the 9th, because of the yellow and red key dream, I knew to use 100 days. And when I added 100 days to January the 9th, I ended up with the date of April the 18th. Well, April the 18th is my brother-in-law's birthday. And as I shared on April the 18th, something with the Israel war took place. And because I know anything dealing with Israel, anything dealing with the colors of yellow and red, that has to do with adding 100 days. So I added 100 days to April the 18th, and I came up with the date of July 27th. Well, on July 27th, I had another dream. And that dream was about a Rubik's Cube. In this dream, I saw an equation. I saw 60 plus Rubik's Cube equals 100. There was more to this dream, but for the most part, 60 plus Rubik's Cube equals 100. I knew that I was looking for the number 40. 60 plus 40 equals 100. And from this point, I decided to add 100 days from July 27th when I had this Rubik's Cube dream, and I received a date of November the 4th. November the 4th. Well, we know that November the 4th is associated with XRP. Therefore, I decided that I needed to add 80 days. When I added 80 days, I ended up with the date of January the 23rd. On January 23rd, there was news that came out, Trump signing an executive order promoting crypto and paving way for a digital asset stockpile. Well, from here, when you think about Tether and XRP, and you think about a digital asset as far as what the U.S. wants to use, as far as their stockpile, it would be something that's more regulated or something that is regulated, and XRP is regulated. Therefore, we're looking at adding 80 days to January 23rd, and that date is April 13th. Now, April 13th is a date that I have talked about. It had been a derived date when it comes down to specifically the housing market crash. I've shared this date in quite a few videos. So, to my surprise, this date has appeared on this timeline. Well, specifically something that took place on this day as far as a crash on April 13th was the mantra coin. And so because there was a crash, I have to use the colors yellow and red when I'm adding my days here, which is 100 days. Adding on 100 days to April the 13th gave me July 22nd. On July 22nd, the White House had their first release of crypto policy reports. Again, we're looking at things that are regulated, coins that are regulated. So here I added another 80 days to July 22nd, and I ended up with the date of October the 10th. October the 10th is familiar simply because it is a date that I had derived before in a previous video when it was specifically talking about Diddy. And so here we have Diddy popping up here with this date of October 10th. I'll get back into that in a minute, but he represents XRP. So we go from the beginning using a date from a individual in the Tether swing dream, my dad. We go from January the 9th as we're focusing on Tether, and we're ending on October 10th looking at XRP. That is the connection that I'm making here. That's the connection that I'm seeing, that Tether and XRP has some type of relationship that God is trying to show me, and this timeline is proving that. And here's a diagram that I often use. This diagram, completing this diagram, the two blues representing XRP, and that's where I get the total of 80 days from. In this case, Tether is going to be represented by yellow and red, XRP, of course, blue and blue. When it comes down to Diddy and Tupac, which we'll get into in just a second, Diddy represents XRP, Tupac represents Ethereum, and those colors, red and yellow, will also match accordingly. So earlier, as I was going from the Tether Swing Dream, the timeline ended on October 10th. So now let's talk about Diddy. The last video I did about Diddy and his trial ending was July 2nd. That's when his trial ended. And looking at the diagram that we have here, so here Diddy is going to be represented by the two blues because Diddy is a XRP indicator. And we're going to add 100 days to July 2nd. The 100 days is represented by Tupac and Ethereum. Because this trial is about Diddy, what's missing is the yellow and red. So we add 100 days. When we do that, we get the date of October 10th. This is what I was saying earlier, that we received the date of October 10th from the Diddy trial ending date, which matches October 10th from the Tether timeline. We know that Diddy sentencing date is scheduled for October the 3rd. That's Friday. And here we have the article that's talking about how Diddy's attorneys are seeking a sentencing close to time served. From my Diddy dream, I shared that he was smiling, he was happy, he was talking so much that I didn't even have a chance to talk. So we'll see how things pan out on the 3rd. While on the topic of the XRP, we're looking at total capital. We're looking at the Bonk dream and the latest in the last video I did about Bonk, the Bonk genes, the post April the 7th. Looking at this diagram again, XRP is represented by the two blue. Bonk is represented by yellow and red. When it comes to total capital, we're looking at the Bonk and XRP ETF. So because this total capital is looking at the Bonk and XRP ETF, I basically combine everything in this diagram together to get a total of 180 days. I added that 180 days to April the 7th and received the date of October the 4th. So we're looking to hear news about this Bonk and XRP ETF on October the 4th. And here again twice, the October 10th date. Are we going to hear news about this Diddy case? Are we going to hear news about XRP? And newly, are we going to hear news about something with Tether on October 4th? I have that date marked down for something to do with total capital and Bonk and XRP ETFs. Now, while we're on the topic about XRP, this is something very, very cool that I saw. I don't know how, but I came across this article talking about why XRP matters. 5 key factors driving its value beyond price. But the article wasn't what stood out to me. What stood out to me the most was the picture that they use. This picture. And I'm seeing here the XRP logo on a heart. On a heart. This reminded me of my dream that I titled The Anatomy of XRP. And I was sharing in this dream how I saw the price of XRP increasing, how I saw these colors on these sections, one representing what looked to be like the stomach and the esophagus and the heart. The heart was moving, it was beating like a heart. And later on, I came across this switch ad and I saw these same colors. And again, this Anatomy of XRP, I was reminded of that when I saw this switch game and these colors on there. And God gave me the revelation of XRP, the flip of the switch, XRP. And I did a video about this switch in XRP and how things are about to switch to many things involving XRP, out with the old and in with the new, the flip of the switch. So when I saw that article, I thought about that, my last video about this switch game. I thought about the anatomy of XRP and putting it all together. I don't think it's a coincidence. The colors, the fact that the XRP logo is on the heart. I feel like God is confirming that this flip of the switch with XRP is about to take place. And as you can see here, the month of October is full of things to look forward to when it comes down to XRP. And the decision deadlines, we have here the date of the 18th, 19th, 20th, 23rd, 25th, and November 14th. All of those things, we're looking at XRP ETFs. So it would not surprise me if this flip of the switch take place in October for XRP. Again, confirming this stream about the anatomy of XRP. And I feel like coming across this article was confirming that. And we're getting ready to go beyond the price of what we've seen for XRP ever. Something else to also note that I shared in my last video about the date of October 17th being a potential crash date. And we look here at the chart, grayscale, the first decision deadline is October the 18th. I don't think that's a coincidence either. So let's continue to pray about all these things, take them before the Lord and see what it is that God would have us to know farther from this point moving forward. That is all that I have for this video. Until the next one, God bless.